addition and renovation to the Charlestown Primary School a number of years back, and we still have 6 more payments to make on that debt, and so this is a Charlestown only expense. And the other objects of $148,000, this includes dues and fees, but it also includes transfers to other funds. In this budget, we started with $115,000 worth of funds supporting the food service program, and it's now down to $85,000 because we cut that $30,000 out recently when we, as part of the $300,000 reduction. One of the things, and Lori talked about this, as did Andy, is state aid. Adequacy aid is the state funding for education. And the adequacy aid formula starts around $3,800 a child, and then it gets adjusted based on a number of different factors, including special ed, including free and reduced, including kindergarten, including a number of different things. The state is struggling, as are we, making their ends meet, and they are reducing our adequacy aid next year by a total of $115,000. So before we spend a penny, we're starting $115,000 short on the revenue side that we have to make up before we start doing anything else. This represents a 1.4 reduction in the state adequacy aid for next year. So please don't be afraid to speak to your legislature to support education at the state level as well as locally. One of the things that people always ask is, what's the cost per student? Now, if you do the simple math of taking our budget and dividing it by the number of students, you're not going to come out with these numbers. But these numbers are based on the state and the method that the state uses, and they remove debt service, they remove transportation, a few other things from their comparative numbers so they can compare the educational cost of the student versus the total cost of the district. The state average at the elementary school is $15,033. In our district, it's $18,075. One of the reasons that our elementary costs are so high is because we have so many buildings and the transportation to and from those buildings, but so many buildings, it makes it more costly. At the high school, the state average is $15,068, and you can see at the high school our cost per student is $13,417. So these are last year's adjusted numbers based on the money we actually spent last year. So in summary, we've been talking about the operating budget. Our operating budget is $27 million that we're proposing, $27,727,666. We also have grants. These are mostly federal, but some state grants of $1,547,178. The grants are self-supporting. If we don't get the revenue, we don't spend the money. If we do get the revenue, we do spend the money. And our food service program of $636,555. And these 3 budgets added together give us the warrant article amount of $29,911,399. On our next slide, we talk about the tax implications. And so what this shows is for each community, what your tax rate had been for the last 2 years, and what, based on the information we have today, we expect it to be next year. Now, you know that your net assessed value, or the value of your community, gets adjusted every year by your assessor, and the new values get presented to the state in August, and the tax rate will get computed based on those new values. So this is just an estimate, and it will change because as those values go up and down, that impacts your tax rate. One of the things that we saw this year is 2 of our communities had drops in their values. So again, their tax rate went up. Even if we spent 0 more money, their tax rate would have gone up because their values dropped. Other three communities had increases in the values of their properties.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to open the floor to questions, comments, potential amendments. Again, if you would like to speak, please hold up the voting card so that I can see it, and I will call on you. Sir.
I'm Matt Jackson. Could somebody talk about the student section?
Hold on, let the board take their seats. Okay, Mr. Saxon, proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Could somebody please talk about the student census and its trajectory? And high school numbers would be indicative, and if you'd like to simplify it that way. You know, what is the student census now? How does it compare to last year? And what do you project going out in years 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now? Thank you.
We actually did look at that. Right now, our population is holding steady and we're increasing. We have already leveled out. Many districts are still being affected by low student enrollment, but I think we're beyond that point. We also have a number of students that have elected from other towns to come to Fall Mountain because of the excellence in education.
Real quickly, we still expect the high school population to drop a little bit over the next few years as we have some small classes working their way through our system. But we're seeing growth at the elementary level, which is good growth, because that's a sustainable growth. And we project over the next 5 years, I use the cohort survival calculation method for doing this. We project about 10 additional students a year over the next 5 years, so about a 50 student growth in the next 5 years.
I would also like to add our pre-K programs. We have a program in each one of our attendance areas, and each one of the programs are totally filled. I think we're attracting many more families, young families, moving into our district because of that program.
Other questions or comments? I'm not seeing anyone. Right down here in front.
Hello, Amy Green, Charlestown. I guess I have a question based on the exemplary results we're getting from our kids. I'm not seeing that on any of the data through the U.S. Department of Education. I see that 70% can't do basic math. This is from the web, and this is from the U.S. Department of Education. So I'm curious about that. We're paying 82% of our budget for teachers, which we love our teachers, but that leaves 12% for everything else. For every dollar that we spend, we're paying 82 cents for a teacher, and we're paying 12 cents per dollar for kids.
Ms. Green, could you speak up a little bit? I'm hearing people say they can't hear you. So closer to the mic.
So I have a concern about that. 82 cents for each dollar. I have a real concern about that. I want my money to pay for something of value. And 70% of the children that cannot do basic math in this school district is not of value. So I would like someone to discuss the statistics that are on your own website and on the Department of Education about the results we're getting. Thank you.
We have made many changes with testing. Originally, it was NCLD, No Child Left Behind. And yes, we were low. During that time, we have gone through many, many days of looking at the testing results. We look at our MAP tests 3 times a year. We report the results to our parents. It's not just one day, one test. It's looking at the student over the whole year. What kind of progress are our students making? How can we better assist that student? And right now, if you look at our state scores through Smarter Balance, we are meeting the average, if not above the average, of the state scores. And secondly, I do want to point out the state of New Hampshire ranks in the upper third of the country when it comes to state performance. Our students do well. We've had 3 schools that were noted by our commissioner as schools of excellence: North Charlestown, CPS, and Elstead Primary School. But in all, we care about our students, we watch what our students are doing, and we do progress monitor our students. We put in another support at the end of the day or during the school day. We have a response intervention program as well throughout our school district.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Streeter.
Emma, I could tell you weren't happy with that answer, so I just wanted to add a little bit to that. The numbers that you see on these websites are very often a couple of years behind. So what we've done recently won't show up for a couple of years on those websites. I can tell you that we're in the second year now with a brand new K-8 math program based on Singapore math. And I can only give you some anecdotal evidence. It is my understanding that, because I have a first grader now at North Charlestown, it's my understanding that last year the Charlestown kids in like K and 1 were testing at the end of that year in the 95 to 100% proficiency rate. The math program we've got in place now is radically different than what we had before. Obviously, we're in the middle of this year. I don't know where we're going, but it seems like if we get them young enough, we're able to really teach them what needs to happen. So I know we tend to focus on high school because these kids are getting out. And I know we're making some great strides there, but I don't have any anecdotal evidence for you for that. But I can tell you what I'm seeing in my own child's scores and what I'm hearing about the other younger kids in the primary schools. That we should really be turning those math scores around.
Thank you, John.
Other questions? In the back there, sir, yes?
Steve D'Alessio from the town of Walpole. It was obvious that the board was split on the budget by a 4-3 vote. I would like to see if one of the board members that voted no would explain why.
Any of the board members want to explain why you voted against the budget?
Can you hear me? I'll stand on my tiptoes, how's that? I voted against the budget because of the $300,000 reduction. I felt that the administrative team, the teachers, as a principal myself, I know the work that went into preparing that budget, and I felt that at reducing it, another $300,000 wasn't necessary. That's why I said no.
Anyone else? Oh, right here.
Hi, Chris Reitman, Town of Alstead.
Repeat the last name again?
Sure, it's Reitman, R-I-E-T-M-A-N-N. As I go through the budget, I see a number of line items that appear to be administrative, and they all have a 2% increase. I'm assuming that's a cost of living increase for principals, for superintendents, for things like that. Can you discuss that a little bit? And also, follow up to that, is there a plan for merit-based increases as opposed to COLAs, if that's what they are?
Included in this budget is funding for a 2% increase for all non-union members of the team. At this point, the board has taken no action on awarding raises to any of us, with the exception of the principals who, by agreement, had to have their contracts a couple weeks ago, and the principals have been awarded through a structure that we pay our principals approximately 2%, but it was not 2% to everybody, it went up and down. And so we've put funding in the budget for a 2% raise, but as of this point, the board has not taken action on raises for any of the non-union members.
Other questions, comments? Albert St. Pierre from Charlestown?
Yes, I attended the budget hearing. I had a number for Charlestown of an increase of $570,000 for Charlestown's portion. The format tonight of everything I picked up it has changed. So I see all kinds of percentages and tax rates. Can you tell me, with the $300,000 budget cut that the board did, how much did it reduce Charlestown's number from that 570,000 just for Article 1?
Albert, if you picked up the handout out in the lobby, on the back of the front page is warrant Article 1, and it shows that the Charlestown increase for Article 1 is now $90.82.
Yes, can you put that into the 570,000 into real dollars for me? You had it at the budget hearing. Why don't we have it tonight?
If you look about 3 pages in from the end of your handout, there's a local tax comparison schedule, and Charlestown is $322,862.
Okay, so that would mean that we went down about 250,000 because of the $300,000 cut? Was mostly in Charlestown?
That would mean that the Charlestown cuts, the special ed cuts, which are spread by one of the methods, and the high school cuts, where Charlestown picks up a substantial portion of the high school, because you're our largest member, all impacted Charlestown significantly, yes.
250,000 out of the 300,000 cut from Charlestown. That's just without having all the numbers and more time to look at it. That just sounds like a lot of money from one time. Change. But I don't know that you can answer it tonight. It just doesn't sound.
Keep in mind also that as part of this, we did some reworking of different line items, and we shifted some work around. So we may have increased one community a little bit and reduced Charlestown more, or Charlestown may have seen the benefit from some changes that we did some reorganizing in order to meet the bottom line that we were given by the school board.
Thank you, Jim.
Other questions or comments? Go ahead. Travis Royce from Charlestown.
I guess this is mine. I'm seeing a lot of talk about reductions, that's all I've heard about. Looking at the information I received tonight, it looks like last year, the board walked into this meeting with a unanimous vote for budget of 28.7 million. It looks like this year, we're about 1.2 million higher than that. And so I don't know if I'm missing something, but all I'm hearing is about the cuts, but we're 1.2 million higher, all else equal. I realized last year's got changed during this meeting, but the board walked in with a unanimous vote for a lower number last year.
Last year, the results of all your voting on all the warrant articles, your general fund operating budget was $28,176,884. And then when you add the grants and the food service, your approved budget by the voters last year was $30,360,617,000. So what we've presented to you this year is almost $400,000 less, excluding the other warrant articles, than what you approved last year.
Mary Henry?
Also in this budget, there's around $600,000 that has been put onto us from the state of increases in New Hampshire retirement and, what was the other one, Jim? New Hampshire retirement
New Hampshire retirement, health insurance.
and health insurance. There was one other one by the state too.
We had out-of-district tuition for special ed students.
Yeah, out-of-district tuition and those things. So even though you say it's higher, there are other things that were there too. So this budget has come down by a lot more than just that. Even though it's 400,000, there are other things in there to equalize that. I mean, it was really a very tight budget this year.
Anyone else? I'm not seeing anyone. I see no other hands raised. So with that, I'm going to close consideration of Article 1, and we're going to move on to Article 2. Okay, I have a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 1. Do I have a second for that motion? Mr. Hogan? Okay, let me just explain to you what that means. It doesn't prevent reconsideration, but should there be a motion for reconsideration later in the meeting, that reconsideration could not take place tonight. It would have to take place at a future meeting to be held at least 7 days after this meeting. So that's the impact of a motion to restrict reconsideration. Am I correct? Yes?
Actually, it isn't reconsidered. It won't restrict reconsideration. No reconsideration can occur until March 14th when the ballot vote takes place.
That's not how I read it, but I believe that reconsideration could take place, but it would have to take place at a future meeting to be held at least 7 days after this meeting with proper warning. I'm looking at RSA 40:10. Anyway, I have a motion for reconsideration. We'll let the attorney figure out what that is, but a motion has been made and seconded to reconsideration of Article 1. You want to wait to take a vote for the attorney to look things up here, or do you want to go ahead and vote on the article? Vote. Okay.
Can you repeat the article, please?
Yes. The article was to restrict reconsideration of Article 1. I think I'm going to start by just calling for a show of hands, or hold up your cards, please. All those in favor, please hold up your cards. All those opposed, please hold up your cards. It's clear to me that the ayes have it, so reconsideration of Article 1 is restricted. Article 2. Shall the Fall Mountain Regional School District vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Fall Mountain Regional School Board and the Fall Mountain Teachers Association, which calls for the following increases in wages and benefits at the current staffing levels. Year 2017 to 18, the estimated increase is $253,628. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $253,628 for the 2017-2018 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional cost attributed to the increase in wages and benefits required by the new agreement over those that will be paid at current staffing levels in accordance with the most current recent collective bargaining agreement. No health and dental care premium increases are included in the main budget proposal. The school board recommends this appropriation by a vote of 6 yes and 1 no, and I await a motion. Gabe St. Pierre moved the article. Do I have a second? Mr. Hogan? Before we start discussion on this article, I'd like to point out that while this article is certainly discussable and debatable, it is not amendable. These numbers were reached via an agreement between the school board and the Teachers Association. If it's amended, it is no longer the agreement that was reached. So there can be no motion to amend this article. It's a straight up or down vote when you vote at your respective balloting in March.